My phone rang at 6:47 a.m. on a Thursday, 2 hours before my first client meeting and exactly 13 minutes into my meditation routine. It was Mom. I let it go to voicemail, as I always did during me time, but the second it stopped ringing, it lit up again. Then again. 3 calls in under 5 minutes meant something had gone wrong, or someone wanted something. Either way, I had a sinking feeling I already knew who it involved. I swiped to answer, balancing the phone between my shoulder and cheek as I poured coffee into the mug with Control the Controllables printed in gold. Vivian. Mom's voice sounded overly bright. That fake kind of sweet she used when she was about to drop a bomb, but wanted to sound like it was all good news. "I'm here," I said warily. "We have a little update from Jenna," she began, using that sing-song voice that made me grit my teeth. She and Sean finalized the van renovations, and they're ready to start their big adventure. I didn't respond right away. I took a slow sip of coffee instead. Mom filled the silence with unnecessary enthusiasm. They're planning to leave Arizona next week and drive back this weekend. The thing is, their van isn't ready for the cold yet, and your condo has all that unused space. Plus, you're so good with the kids. I set my mug down so hard it sloshed onto the marble countertop. "Are you asking me to let them stay here?" "Not asking," she chirped. "We thought it just made the most sense. Your place is perfect, and it'll just be until spring, maybe sooner if things settle." I stared out the frosted window of my 17th floor condo, watching the city light catch on the lake. "Mom, you didn't even ask me." "Well, we figured you'd say yes. Family helps family." There it was, the line that excused every imposition, every expectation, every boundary crossed for the sake of keeping Jenna's life from falling apart again. I swallowed the familiar burn of frustration. "You mean like I helped pay for their wedding? Or the kids' school funds? Or the fridge when it broke? That kind of help?" She huffed. "Why are you bringing all that up now? This is different. They're in crisis." "No, Mom. They're in consequences." Silence buzzed on the line. I could almost hear her frown. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying you need to stop making plans for my life without including me in the conversation." "Oh, come on, Vivian," she snapped. "You live alone in a 2-bedroom with a home office. You've got the space. You've got the money. Jenna and Sean are out there chasing their dreams. You're sitting on all this room." I felt something break a little inside me. The same conversation, replayed for years like a scratched record. "I worked for this, Mom. I planned for it, saved for it. No one handed it to me. I didn't sell my house on a whim to chase sunsets." "Well," she said stiffly, "if you won't help, I guess we'll have to figure something else out." "I didn't say I wouldn't help," I replied evenly. "I said I won't be steamrolled." We ended the call without resolution. But what stayed with me wasn't the argument. It was what she said near the end. "You're sitting on all this room." As if space, my space, earned through decades of discipline, was a community property she could assign out like chairs at a Thanksgiving table. I leaned against the kitchen island, the silence in my condo suddenly feeling less like peace and more like anticipation. I knew what was coming. The follow-up call from Dad. The text from Jenna with emojis and faux humility. Maybe even a passive-aggressive Instagram post about those who pretend to love you but only love control. It was happening again. The cycle. Jenna makes a reckless decision. The consequences arrive on schedule. Our parents scramble. I become the fallback plan. Then I say yes, resentfully, and everyone breathes easier while I quietly suffocate. But this time something was different. This time I wasn't just annoyed. I was angry. Angry at being defaulted into caretaker mode. Angry that Jenna's search for freedom now meant my life needed to bend around her broken version of it. Angry that no one ever asked what I wanted. Because they thought they already knew. Vivian's fine. She's always fine. And if she's not, she'll deal with it. I stood in the center of my living room, framed by clean white walls, minimalist shelves, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a snow-dusted city that reflected every sacrifice I had made to get here. The calm was deliberate, earned, built brick by brick out of decisions that never made my parents proud, but made my future possible. Jenna had chosen chaos and was once again asking me to cushion the fall, and they all expected me to agree. Not this time. I reached for my phone and opened the family group chat. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a second, then typed a message I never thought I'd write. We need to have a family discussion. Video call. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central. Non-negotiable. I hit send and stared out the window again, my breath fogging the glass. Something was coming. And this time, I wasn't going to absorb it. I was going to meet it head on. Jenna and I were born exactly 26 months apart, but it might as well have been 26 years. Even as kids, we didn't occupy the same world. While I was lining up my colored pencils by shade and writing grocery lists for my imaginary kitchen, Jenna was painting murals on her bedroom wall with nail polish and convincing our neighbor's dog to wear a tutu for her circus show. She was chaos with a smile. I was order in a cardigan. At age 10, I started tracking my weekly allowance in a spiral-bound notebook. I color-coded spending, saving, and future goals. Jenna spent hers on glittery gel pens and candy the minute we left the store. Dad chuckled and said, "Different strokes for different folks," while Mom swatted me playfully with a dish towel whenever I reminded Jenna she wouldn't have money left by Tuesday. That dynamic, it never changed. In high school, I worked at a bookstore and saved nearly every dollar for college. Jenna dropped out of a part-time gig at the frozen yogurt shop because the manager had bad vibes. She spent that summer following a guy named Brandon to Oregon for a music festival. Came back with a nose ring, no tuition money, and zero regrets. I didn't say anything. I just worked extra shifts and reapplied for more scholarships. By the time I was 23, I graduated with honors and started my first job in financial consulting. Jenna had already dropped out of 2 majors and moved through 3 boyfriends. Mom said she was still finding herself. Dad said, "She's got your mother's spirit." I was never sure whether that was meant to be a compliment or an apology. At 25, I bought my first condo. Nothing huge, but the down payment was all mine. I remember bringing Jenna over to show her the place. She laughed when she saw my spreadsheet taped to the fridge, projecting monthly expenses and goals for the next year. "You're such a nerd," she said, flopping on my couch. "You know you're going to die alone with your charts, right?" I smiled like it was a joke, but something about the way she said it lingered. Then came Sean. At first, I was hopeful. He was quiet, hardworking, the kind of guy who showed up early and asked questions about interest rates. They moved quickly, rented a place, got married. The ceremony was small but sweet. I paid for most of it when their vision outpaced their budget. I told myself it was an investment in Jenna's stability. A year later came Ella, then Noah 2 years after that. I loved those kids like my own. They were smart, warm, curious, and astonishingly adaptable for children raised in what could only be described as creative unpredictability. I started college funds for both of them when Jenna shrugged and said, "We'll figure it out later." That's the thing, later was her favorite timeline. It excused everything. Later, they'd settle down. Later, she'd get serious. Later, things would be better. I kept waiting for later to show up. 3 years ago, they bought a modest little house in the suburbs outside St. Paul. A bit rundown, but it had a yard and good schools. For the first time, it looked like Jenna had planted her feet. She FaceTimed me, giddy, showing off Ella's purple bedroom and Noah's dinosaur shelf. "I finally get it, Viv," she said. "Being a mom, it roots you, you know." I wanted to believe her. I really did. Meanwhile, my own life stayed steady. I didn't get married, didn't have kids. I dated sometimes, but never felt compelled to rearrange my life for anyone. I liked my quiet mornings, my clean apartment, my weekend hikes alone. And deep down, I knew If I ever fell, there'd be no one there to cushion the landing. So I built a life where falling wasn't an option. But the family pattern continued. When Jenna's fridge died, I loaned them $1,200. When Sean's truck broke down, I researched affordable mechanics and drove him myself. When their daycare closed suddenly, I canceled a client call to babysit. Each time I told myself, it's just this once. They're just struggling right now. But right now had been going on for a decade. The resentment didn't come in a flood. It dripped in, quiet, constant, until it was everywhere. Still, I never confronted it. Because if I said something, if I pointed out the imbalance, I'd be the bad guy. The uptight one. The sister who doesn't understand love or adventure or what really matters. So I swallowed it until Dr. Colleen Meyer, my therapist, tilted her head one day and said, "Vivian, what if the problem isn't just that your sister expects too much, but that you've trained everyone to expect it?" The words hit harder than I expected, because she was right. I'd spent my life being the net beneath their trapeze. And maybe they'd stop checking if the wire was strong, because they always assumed I'd be there. The van, the tour, the freedom chase, it wasn't new. It was just the loudest version of a story I'd been living since childhood. Only now it was crashing into my front door. The signs were there before the van ever hit the road. I just didn't want to see them. It started subtly. Jenna's Instagram, transforming from chaotic snapshots of finger-painted walls and messy pancakes to curated grids of camper vans beside waterfalls. Quotes like "the universe rewards the brave" and "own less, live more" began appearing under photos of strangers living barefoot in national parks. Then came the Pinterest boards, van life dreams, freedom layouts, off-grid kitchens. When I asked what this was all about during a family barbecue, she barely looked up from her phone. "Don't you ever get tired of being in the same place every day?" she asked, eyes fixed on a photo of a couple grilling vegetables beside a lake in Colorado. "Not really," I said. "I like my routines." She glanced at me, pity softening her face. "That's sad, Viv. There's so much more out there." I could have snapped back, told her that being rooted wasn't the same as being stuck. But instead, I asked how the kids were enjoying their new school. A safe pivot. Classic me. Looking back, I wish I hadn't let it slide. 2 weeks later, during Sunday dinner, they announced it. "We've listed the house," Jenna said with a breathless grin, holding Sean's hand across the lasagna-filled table. "Dad's fork paused midair. Are you moving somewhere bigger?" Her eyes sparkled. "We're hitting the road, selling everything, going full van life." There was a beat of stunned silence. Then Mom clapped like they'd just revealed a pregnancy. "What an adventure," she beamed. "What a gift for the kids." I looked at Ella and Noah, both staring down at their plates. Noah poked at his peas like they might explode. Ella's lips were pressed into a line. Neither child smiled. "And school?" I asked carefully. "We'll road school," Jenna replied, waving her hand. "They'll learn more seeing the Grand Canyon than in some fluorescent-lit classroom." Dad asked where they'd live. "We're getting a Sprinter van," she said proudly. "Full conversion, solar panels, compost toilet, even a skylight." Sean gave me a strained smile and a sip of wine that looked more like a gulp. Later, while Jenna distracted our parents with van interior photos, I pulled Sean aside in the kitchen. "Are you really on board with this?" He exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. "It's what Jenna wants." "And what about what you want?" He didn't answer, just stared at the floor. "Have you budgeted for this?" I pressed. "Emergency fund? Medical care? School resources?" She says we're overthinking it, that the universe will provide. He made air quotes. I winced. "You don't believe that?" "I don't know what I believe anymore." The house sold within 3 weeks. $40,000 over asking. A solid cushion if they were smart. But instead of setting aside funds for emergencies or temporary housing while they prepped the van, Jenna went all in. And she documented every minute of it. "Meet our new home," she posted, posing beside the $60,000 silver Mercedes Sprinter. Let the freedom journey begin. Over the next month, her feed lit up with updates. Custom cabinetry made of reclaimed bamboo, solar panels, a $900 compost toilet, hand-sewn curtains from an Etsy shop in Oregon, fairy lights, wall murals, hashtags like hashtag Escape the Matrix and hashtag VanFamVibes. Each photo looked like a magazine spread. Perfect angles, warm tones, captions about liberation and choosing experiences over stuff. But the kids never smiled. Ella's bright energy dulled to polite stares. Noah, who used to carry around 7 different dinosaur figurines, now clutched a single T-Rex in every picture. When I asked about it over coffee one morning before their departure, Jenna laughed. Storage is tight. We each got one bin. They'll adapt. Adapt. That word again. I tried to broach concerns gently about schooling, healthcare in remote places, vehicle breakdowns. You worry too much, Viv, she said, rolling her eyes. That's why you're stuck in the corporate wheel. This lifestyle, it's about flow. Trust. But kids need structure, I insisted. They need adventure, she countered. Our ancestors were nomads. Our ancestors also died young and had no education, I muttered under my breath. She didn't hear me, or pretended not to. Then, 2 weeks before departure, Sean quit his job, a steady union electrician's position with benefits, seniority. He walked away from it because Jenna said the system was trapping them. Our parents threw them a goodbye party, complete with a van-shaped cake and Bon Voyage banners. I stood in the corner, clutching my wine, watching Jenna toast to living intentionally. Her eyes sparkled. Sean's didn't. Aren't you proud of her? Mom asked, slipping beside me. Taking control of her life like this? I bit my tongue. It looks more like abandoning responsibility. Mom's smile dimmed. Not everyone wants your boring life, Vivian. There it was. Again. Boring. Funny how no one calls it boring when they need help paying their electric bill. As they pulled away in their glittering van 2 days later, Ella's face pressed against the window, I felt a stone settle in my gut. Something told me I'd be cleaning up the wreckage before the year was out. At first, it all looked like a postcard. Jenna's social media turned into a travel journal. Sunrise yoga beside mountain lakes, Sean grilling over a portable stove, Ella and Noah spotting wild horses in Wyoming. Every photo was drenched in golden light, every caption laced with wanderlust and wisdom. Don't just exist, live. Our kids will remember the moments, not the math worksheets. And maybe for a moment, I let myself believe she'd done it, that she'd cracked the code. That maybe, just maybe, I was the one missing out. They seem happy, I admitted to Dr. Meyer during one of our sessions. She tilted her head, slightly. Social media rarely tells the full story. Are they really happy, or are they just curating happiness? That question sat with me longer than I expected. When I texted Jenna, her replies were breezy and vague. Best views ever. We're learning so much from nature. She never answered direct questions about schoolwork, medical access, or budgeting. And I still hadn't spoken to the kids. They're busy soaking in the moment, she said when I asked. Less screen time, more real life. But then the post slowed down. The golden glow dimmed. One day it was a photo of their cramped van with clothes strung across the interior like a makeshift laundry line. The caption read, "Van life isn't always pretty, but it's real." Another post showed a cracked dish in the sink and the kids eating cold soup from paper bowls. Minimalism means gratitude, Jenna wrote, followed by a string of sunset emojis. The comment section changed too. Followers went from admiring to concerned. Are the kids still in school? What happens when it snows? Do you have a backup plan? Her answers were increasingly defensive, more spiritual than practical. We trust the universe. Education is everywhere if you know how to see it. This isn't for everyone, it's for the brave. Then came the van trouble. The first time Dad mentioned it casually on the phone. Just a little engine issue. I knew it wasn't little. I asked how much it cost. He hesitated. 3 grand. But it's fine. They'll get back on their feet. $3,000. On a van repair. In the middle of nowhere. Where did they get that kind of money? I asked. He cleared his throat. We helped a little. Not much. Which, of course, meant too much. My concern grew with every call. The kids were bored, according to Dad. Ella missed her old teacher. Noah asked about his friend Aiden from preschool. My mother brushed it off. They're adjusting. But even she didn't sound convinced anymore. Then, one night, my phone rang at 11:30, 6 p.m. Jenna. I stared at the screen for a beat before answering. Is everything okay? She sounded smaller than I'd ever heard her. We're having a rough patch. A rough patch. I sat up in bed. Where are you? Some town in Utah. The van needs another repair. Campgrounds are more expensive than we thought. Gas is insane. Sean hasn't found steady work yet. And. She inhaled shakily. Could you loan us a couple thousand? Just until next month. Once Sean gets another job lined up, we'll pay it back. I closed my eyes. Have you done a new budget? Vivian, please. Jenna, I'm not saying no. But I'm not just wiring money again without understanding the full picture. You're asking for more than money. You're asking me to keep this lifestyle afloat. I need to know where it's going. Silence stretched. You've got plenty, she said finally, her voice sharpening. You live in a high-rise. You drink fancy coffee. We're your family. That's not what this is about. Yes, it is, she snapped. Forget it. We'll figure it out ourselves. She hung up. The next morning, she posted a filtered photo of a desert sunset with the caption, "Some people will never understand freedom over security. Their loss." I didn't reply, but I noticed something else. Her parents, my parents, had transferred $1,500 to her account that very same day. I only knew because Dad called to tell me proudly, like they'd solved something. Family helps family, he said again. Yes, but at what cost? Weeks passed. Their posts became infrequent, defensive. They praised simple meals, while showing paper bowls filled with beans and rice. Sean appeared less and less in photos. Jenna stopped tagging locations. The beautiful vistas gave way to generic parking lots and cold concrete backgrounds. On a video call with Mom, I saw something that broke me. Ella shuffled past in the background, hair tangled, clutching a tattered workbook. Hi, sweetheart, I said, quickly waving. How's road school? She looked down. We don't really do school, she mumbled. Mostly just driving. Before I could ask more, Jenna swooped in and whisked her away, glaring at the camera. October arrived, and with it, cold nights. Propane was expensive. Insulation was limited. The van had a heater, but it drained power too fast. Mom called me again, voice strained. They just need a little more time to adjust. No, I said. They need a plan. This isn't sustainable. But I knew what was coming next. They were spiraling, and I could feel the weight of everyone's expectations, just waiting to land squarely on my doorstep. It was a Tuesday morning when Mom let it slip. The van's back in the shop, she said, voice hushed as if that would soften the absurdity. The transmission's gone. $12,000. I stopped walking. The coffee I had just bought went cold in my hand. 12,000. I repeated. It's a Mercedes, she said, as if luxury made it reasonable. They didn't realize repairs would be so. Of course they didn't realize, Mom, because they didn't plan. She went quiet. And where are they staying now? Some motel near Flagstaff, $49 a night. They can't drive anywhere until it's fixed. My mind did the math without effort. At least 2 weeks for transmission work. Motel bills, food, gas, living expenses. They were looking at over $3,000 just to survive while waiting for a van they could no longer afford to maintain. They're considering tapping into their retirement, she added quietly. No, I said sharply. Absolutely not. She didn't answer. That night, I received another call, this time from Jenna. Her voice was raw, like the last layers of pride had finally burned away. You were right, she said, almost choking on the words. This was a mistake. All of it. I sat down slowly. Tell me what's happening. It came pouring out, how they were down to their last $200. How Rick's temporary job barely covered food. How the kids were falling apart. Nightmares. Anxiety. No schooling. No routine. Just long days of driving and longer nights pretending everything was okay. I ruined it, she whispered. The house. Rick's job. The kids' stability. I ruined everything. I didn't say, I told you so. I didn't lecture. I just asked the question I'd never dared to ask her before. What do you want to do now? She hesitated. Rick says we should sell the van and start over. Find a cheap apartment, but that feels like failure. It's not failure to admit something isn't working, I said gently. It's wisdom. We can't even afford first and last month's rent. No landlord will take us with no job history. There it was, the corner they'd backed themselves into. No home, no credit, no savings. Just hope clinging to the edge of collapse. I'll help you find a plan, I told her. But it has to be a plan that works. She went quiet again. Then, finally, I'll think about it. But the next morning, Mom called. We talked to your father, and we're going to help them pay for the repairs. I froze. With what money? Our credit card. You're going to max out your credit card to fix a van they can't afford to live in. We don't have a choice, she said stiffly. There were other choices, I snapped. Practical ones. You've always been hard on Jenna. Not everyone has your advantages. My hand shook. My advantages? You mean my career? My savings? I earned those. More silence. Then the final blow. We were thinking, with your extra bedroom and home office, there's space for all four of them to stay with you, just until they get back on their feet. I stared at the phone like it had grown teeth. You want them to move into my home. Well, we might have suggested it was a possibility. I didn't speak. I couldn't. You told her this was happening, I said finally. Silence again. You made this decision for me. She's your sister, Vivian. She needs you. No. What she needed was accountability. And what I needed was a full stop. I ended the call. Then I opened the family group chat and typed, We need to talk. Video call. Tomorrow. 7 p.m. Central. Everyone. When the screen lit up the next evening, I sat at my kitchen table. Laptop open, jaw clenched. One by one, they joined, Mom and Dad in their living room, Jenna in a dim motel corner, Sean somewhere between exhaustion and embarrassment. Thanks for making time, I began. We need to address some serious miscommunications. If this is about us staying with you, Jenna jumped in, we promise we won't be a burden. Rick and I can sleep in the guest room. The kids can share the office. We'll be quiet. No, I said firmly. You misunderstood. I never agreed to this arrangement. I was told this was happening. That's not the same. My mother's eyes narrowed. Vivian, this isn't the time to be selfish. I'm not being selfish. I'm setting a boundary. A boundary? Jenna scoffed. You live in a luxury condo and you're telling us there's no room. I'm telling you it's not sustainable. It's not realistic. And it's not happening. Everyone froze. You have space, Dad said quietly. And money. Would helping them for a few months really be so hard? It's not about hard, I replied. It's about what actually helps. Enabling bad decisions doesn't. Throwing money at dysfunction doesn't. Turning my home into an overcrowded boarding house definitely doesn't. Then, the unexpected happened. Sean cleared his throat. She's right, he said softly. Jenna whipped her head toward him. What? She's right, he repeated louder. We've made one bad decision after another. And every time, someone's cushioned the fall. Mostly you, Vivian. Jenna gaped. How can you say that? I can say it, he said, because I'm tired. Because I watched you spend thousands on a luxury yoga retreat instead of fixing the van when it first made that noise. Because I watched you buy new outfits for Instagram while Ella cried herself to sleep in the van. He turned to the camera. This isn't freedom. It's a mess. And Vivian's the only one who said it out loud. No one moved. No one spoke. Finally, I looked at Jenna. I'm willing to help, I said softly. But not like this. I can help you find a place. I can help with first month's rent. I can help build a real plan. But I won't give you my home. For once, Jenna didn't argue. She just stared at the screen, eyes hollow, and logged off without a word. My parents followed, faces pinched with anger and disbelief. Only Sean remained. Thank you, he said, voice quiet but clear, for saying what needed to be said. Then he was gone too, and I was left alone, finally, fully, but for the first time, on my own terms. After the video call ended, I sat there for a long time, staring at my reflection in the black mirror of my laptop screen. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like I'd run a mile. But the apartment around me was quiet, eerily quiet, the kind of silence that follows an earthquake. I'd done it. I had said no. Not softly. Not with disclaimers. Not with a nervous laugh and an apology. Just no. And it felt like the most terrifying and necessary sentence I had ever spoken in my life. For the next few days, the fallout came in waves. First was the silence. No texts. No calls. No emails from anyone in my family. Like I'd been airbrushed out of a group photo. Then came the guilt. Not from them, at least not directly, but from the voice inside my own head, sharpened over years of being the reliable one. Was I really turning my back on my sister's kids? Was I letting them sleep in a van so I could keep my office space? The thought twisted in my chest, even though I knew better. I reminded myself what Dr. Meyer had said. Saying no isn't cruelty. It's clarity. Still, the house felt colder than usual. The lake outside looked grayer. Even my condo, once a sanctuary, felt vaguely accusing, like I owed someone something for having built it with intention. But then something shifted. On Friday night, I got a text. From Sean. Motel lobby. 8 p.m. your time. Melissa's taking the kids to the pool. Can we talk? It was simple, direct, and somehow hopeful. When his face appeared on the screen, he looked different. Tired, yes, but also clearer, sharper, like something had clicked into place after years of drifting through fog. How bad is it? I asked quietly. He laughed, but it wasn't bitter this time. Just weary. Worse than we've let anyone know. The van's fixed, but barely. Motel costs are draining us. Melissa still thinks if we just hold out, the universe will reward our commitment. And the kids? He hesitated, then looked straight into the camera. They're breaking. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. Instead, I opened the spreadsheet I'd prepared the night before. I'd found a few apartments near Flagstaff, 2 bedrooms, modest but clean, ranging from $850 to $1,100. Most were near construction sites that listed openings for electricians. I've run some numbers, I told him. If you can get steady work, even at entry level, you'll be able to cover rent and essentials. If you sell the van, even at a loss, you'll have enough for first and last month, plus basic furniture. He blinked. You did all that. I couldn't sleep. He leaned back, exhaling slowly. Vivian, I don't know what to say. Start by telling me this matters to you more than being right. He nodded. It does. I hesitated. And Melissa? A long pause. She's still clinging to the dream. But I told her the kids stay with me either way. She can come with us. Or not. I didn't respond right away. I was too stunned by the calm certainty in his voice. But I also knew what that kind of resolve cost a man who'd spent years making himself small. I can help with the security deposit, I said finally, and the first month's rent. Consider it a gift for Ella and Noah. Not a loan. He looked down, swallowing hard. Thank you. No thanks, I said. Just follow through. Build something stable. No more pretending. He promised he would. Over the next 2 days, we texted discreetly. Sean toured a few apartments, settled on a quiet 2-bedroom on the edge of town. The landlord was hesitant, no job history, no credit. But after a few honest conversations and some paperwork I helped prep, he agreed. I wired the money. The lease was signed. And for the first time in months, something real began to form beneath the ruins. On Sunday, I received a message from Sean. She's not thrilled, but she agreed. Kids start school after winter break. I start work next week. Selling the van tomorrow. 3 short lines. And yet, I sat on my couch and cried harder than I had in years. Not out of sadness, out of relief. The next day, I got a call from my parents. Or rather, my father. I heard about the apartment, he said. His voice was stiff, as always, but something beneath it had softened. That was generous of you. I didn't say anything. And responsible. That word, that particular word, meant more coming from him than any apology ever could. Then came the kicker. Your mother's not ready to talk. But she will be. Eventually. I smiled faintly. That's all right. I didn't do it for her approval. I know. Another pause. But she's noticed the change in the kids. That was enough for now. Later that evening, a photo popped up on my phone. Ella and Noah standing in an empty apartment, holding a handwritten sign that said, "Thank you, Aunt Vivian." No emojis, no filters, just 2 small, tired, hopeful faces, and a beginning. The van sold for $18,000, far less than Jenna had hoped, but enough to furnish the apartment and clear the last of their credit card debt. Sean picked up a set of second-hand bunk beds for the kids, a used dining table, and a modest couch from a thrift store in town. He sent me pictures as each item arrived, quiet proof that things were being rebuilt one piece at a time. The apartment wasn't much. Beige carpet, off-white walls, a tiny balcony that overlooked the parking lot. But it had heat, running water, and a lease with Sean's name on it. More importantly, it had bedrooms with doors, clean beds with real pillows, and a kitchen that didn't run on propane. Ella and Noah started school just after the new year. The school counselor reached out to Sean with concerns about Ella's social anxiety and Noah's academic delays. He didn't ignore it. He asked questions, filled out forms, scheduled meetings. For the first time since I'd known him, Sean looked like a man who wasn't just reacting to life, but participating in it. Meanwhile, Jenna was quieter. I didn't hear much from her in the first few weeks after they moved in. Her Instagram fell silent, the once daily posts vanishing altogether. No inspirational quotes. No sunlit photos of mountain ranges or one-pot vegan meals. Just nothing. Then one afternoon, a text arrived from an unknown number. "Hey, it's me. I'm using a new number. Just wanted to say the kids like school. Ella made a friend. His name is Derek. That's all. J, no punctuation. No emojis. But something about it felt more honest than anything she'd posted in months. I didn't respond immediately. I wanted to, but I needed to be careful. Just because someone is walking beside you again doesn't mean they won't veer off the path when things get hard. Dr. Meyer had warned me, helping someone find ground is different from letting them stand on yours. So I waited. Then, 2 weeks later, a second message came. Found a part-time job at the bakery down the street. Not glamorous, but it's warm, and they give us leftovers sometimes. I smiled at that one, not because it was triumphant, but because it was real. From that point on, we found a rhythm. I didn't push. She didn't overshare. Slowly, she began rebuilding her relationship with the kids. This time not through van adventures or sunrise selfies, but by showing up every day, by packing lunches, checking homework, reading bedtime stories. One Sunday afternoon, I got a photo from Sean. It was Ella holding up a Student of the Month certificate, her gap-toothed grin stretching from ear to ear. Her hair was brushed. Her eyes were bright. Her t-shirt read Future Astronaut. Underneath, the caption simply said, "She's thriving." I forwarded it to my parents. There was no reply from my mother, but my father sent back a thumbs-up emoji. For him, that was practically poetry. By February, Sean had earned a promotion, moving from day labor to supervising small electrical projects. The construction company liked his work ethic, and he liked having a job that let him come home by 5 p.m. each day. They were still living tight. Every dollar mattered, but the difference between barely surviving and rebuilding with purpose is like night and day. Jenna struggled more than he did. She missed the van in ways that surprised me, not the lifestyle necessarily, but the illusion of movement. The idea that something better was always just one highway away. Settling down meant facing herself in a way the road never required. But she tried. I saw it in the way she started asking for grocery lists instead of cash, in the way she mentioned therapy, once quickly and never again, but it mattered, in the way she no longer flinched when people talked about next week or next month. It was slow, uneven, but it was growth. One afternoon in late March, I visited. I didn't tell them ahead of time. I just showed up with a bag of groceries and a cautious heart. Ella tackled me at the door. Noah peeked around the corner, holding a science project made from paper towel rolls and duct tape. Sean gave me a tired smile and a hug that felt real. Jenna lingered in the kitchen, wiping down counters that were already clean. "Thanks for coming," she said, not looking at me. "Thanks for inviting me," I replied, even though she hadn't. We sat on the couch after the kids went to bed, drinking peppermint tea in mismatched mugs. The silence was awkward at first. Then, out of nowhere, she said, "I'm still mad that it took all this for you to finally say no." I blinked, but I'm also glad you did. She looked down at her tea. If you hadn't, I don't think I ever would have stopped running. I didn't know what to say, so I said the truth. I wasn't trying to change you. I just couldn't let you take me with you. "I know," she said, and that was enough. When I left the next morning, Noah handed me a drawing. It was stick figures, one tall with brown hair, two little ones, and one with long red hair labeled Aunt V. Underneath, he'd written in shaky block letters, "We have a house now." I tucked it in my purse like it was made of gold, because in some ways it was. Thanksgiving came early that year, not on the calendar, but in spirit. Instead of hosting the family in my condo like years past, I booked a flight to Flagstaff. It was practical. Melissa and Sean still couldn't afford travel, and I didn't want Ella and Noah crammed into an airport line the day before a holiday. But it was also symbolic. This time I would come to them, not to rescue, not to fix, but to visit. When I arrived, the apartment looked lived in. Crayons scattered on the kitchen table. Jackets draped over dining chairs. A tiny handwritten schedule taped to the fridge. Monday library, Tuesday laundry, Wednesday school meeting. The chaos was still there, but it had a rhythm now. A container, the kind of mess that comes from effort, not collapse. Sean greeted me with a warm hug. "Glad you came." Jenna followed behind, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She didn't hug me, but she smiled. "I hope you like stuffing from a box," she said. "We're still learning." Ella and Noah had made decorations, construction paper turkeys, handprint leaves with things they were thankful for. On Ella's, I saw 3 words that stopped me, and Vivian's help. No one made a speech. No one toasted to new beginnings or tried to pretend everything was perfect. But we sat around a wobbly table, elbows bumping, plates full of store-brand cranberry sauce and slightly undercooked rolls, and it was the most peaceful family meal I'd had in years. There were awkward moments, like when Mom automatically gave Jenna the biggest piece of pie, or when Dad started to retell a story that painted Jenna as a whimsical free spirit instead of a reckless risk-taker. But both caught themselves. Both adjusted. Small corrections. Subtle but seismic. After dinner, I helped Ella with a school project, cutting out magazine photos for a collage about dreams. Hers included an astronaut, a veterinarian, and, somewhat randomly, a lighthouse keeper. Why a lighthouse? I asked. She looked at me, then pointed to the top of the collage where she'd pasted a little paper figure labeled me. I want to be the person who keeps the lights on so others don't get lost. I didn't cry, but I came close. Later that night, Jenna and I stood on the tiny patio, watching the neighbors light sparklers for some reason that had nothing to do with the holiday. It's not the Grand Canyon, she said. No, I agreed. But it's solid ground. She took a sip of tea. You know the hardest part of coming back. What? Knowing people saw us fail. That I let my kids down. You didn't fail, I said gently. You rerouted. She nodded slowly. Still feels like limping home after shouting at the world that you had wings. There was nothing I could say to erase that feeling, so I didn't try. I just stood beside her, letting the silence settle without fixing it. After a moment, she added, Thank you for not giving me what I demanded, for giving me what I needed instead. That line stayed with me, not because it made me feel vindicated, but because it made me feel seen. Weeks passed. Winter faded into early spring. Ella brought home report cards with little stars. Noah joined a reading group and made a best friend named Zane. Sean got a raise. Jenna started volunteering at the kids' school. My relationship with our parents thawed, degree by degree. Dad began asking financial advice again, his version of peace offering. Mom called to ask what she could do to help with the kids. She even said, I'm sorry once in a roundabout way. I've been thinking about what you said, she told me one afternoon. About boundaries, about enabling. My mother did the same thing to me. Always saved me, always stepped in. Maybe I was just repeating the only thing I knew. It was the closest she'd ever come to admitting a pattern, and it was enough. Melissa and Sean started couples counseling. Slowly, awkwardly, they began addressing what had driven them into that van in the first place. Not just the dream, but the avoidance, the fear, the fractures between them that Instagram filters couldn't hide. And as they rebuilt their relationship, I rebuilt mine with myself. For years, I thought being dependable meant being available, that being strong meant absorbing everyone else's collapse. But it didn't. Not really. Being strong meant holding your shape, even when others leaned too hard. Thanksgiving wasn't the end of the story, not even close, but it was a turning point. It was the first time we sat around a table and didn't pretend we were something we weren't. The first time we shared a meal without roles. No fixer, no mess, no martyr, no hero. Just people, just family, just enough.